The nuclear fusion breakthrough everyone said was impossible debuted on December 11th, 2025. This is a week before Trump just bought this company. This video is all about Tri-Alpha Energy from a pretty big YouTuber with 764,000 followers.
For a much lower overall gain. But that's only half the story. A lot of the topics we cover are counterintuitive or not immediately obvious. You know what's really not obvious? This thing to plasma. The only machine that even has a chance is the field reverse configuration FRC. This is what TAE and Helion use. But what exactly is that? These machines use strong magnetic fields to confine the hot plasma because there are no materials in the universe capable of withstanding 150 million degrees Celsius, let alone 5 billion. It took.
So that was actually a super important point, guys. The temperatures that we're talking about to produce a neutronic fusion are so high that there's no material in the universe that can withstand them. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of degrees. So what's the answer to that problem? No walls. We can't have any walls whatsoever because they're just going to melt. So we have to create a structure that is not going to melt. So either we've got to have no walls or we've got to use some secret material. Let's just call it fog bank. No, for no reason. I'm just going to call it fog bank. Come up with a weird material that can encase our electronics and be impervious to heat. One of those two are our options. Let's go back to my boy.
Like the one we're building in Europe, you have a donut-shaped machine with D-shaped magnets that compress the plasma in midair like a hula hoop. The magnets do all the compressing. In an FRC, instead of a hula hoop of plasma, it's a spinning football. And because it's spinning, it creates its own magnetic field, holding itself together. The plasma pressure is the magnetic pressure, so you don't need such strong magnets. And at a higher...
The plasma pressure is the magnetic pressure. This video is great. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about, but the plasma pressure is the magnetic pressure, so you don't need all these external magnets. The plasma is producing the electromagnetic field. This is why it has to be a dense plasma, because you need your plasma to be dense enough so it can produce its own electromagnetic fields. What is another cool thing about a dense plasma? Imagine you've got this soup of electrons and ions. Well, it's conductive, just like a metal is conductive, because you've made this dense soup of plasma, and now the electrons and the ions are close enough that you're seeing this macroscopic effect occur with them in this organization. So you're going to have them potentially be superconductive because the electrons and the ions are going to stabilize in a configuration, and this is going to be equivalent or analogous to a conductive material like a metal. Your plasma is going to act like a conductive material. You're going to have electricity, lightning flying through it.
How much longer will you keep believing that Proscar and Flomax will shrink your prostate? Today, I'm going to...
beta, you're going to get more energy out than in for a fixed magnetic field. That's what makes it possible to run with advanced fuels like HB11. It's the only way to hold something that hot. But this is where we hit the 50-year-old fatal flaw. Theory said that FRC was hopelessly unstable. It suffers from something called the tilt instability. The plasma football just wants to flip over and slam onto the reactor wall in microseconds. For decades...
Whoa. So they had to fix this instability. So this was an important point. Everybody just thought FRC was impossible. They thought it wouldn't work. This is exactly what we're looking for. When you're looking for suppressed technologies, you want to find something that's out there that people have just ignored. Charles Chase even spoke about this a lot, about when he was looking for technologies for Lockheed Martin. He's looking for the stuff that people ignored, that people didn't pay attention to. And here you go. These people thought reverse field configuration couldn't work. Turns out it's the secret sauce. It does work. This is why we have to get away from all these assumptions, especially in physics and science.
The textbook said FRCs were a dead end, but TAE, like SpaceX, looked at the impossible and engineered a solution. Breakthrough 1, solving the tilt. TAE's first great idea was to use neutral beams as a gyroscope. On their Norman machine, also called C2W, they installed 8 giant particle beams that fire onto the plasma, spinning it up like a top, and it actually worked.
Oh, of course it works. What's the answer? How do you fix the instability? We talked about this on Wednesday. Nuno Lorerio, he told us. What's the answer to the instability? Spin. Spin your milk up. Spin your coffee up. Spin is the answer. So how are they fixing the instability? They put neutral beam injectors, which is just a fancy way of saying we're going to keep pushing on our swing. We put these neutral beam injectors, keep it spinning. What are the MH370 video orbs doing? Oh, they're spinning. The MH370 video orbs are spinning on their axis as well. I wonder if that spin has a secondary purpose of keeping the plasma stable as the orbs are flying through the sky. Otherwise, why bother having your orbs spin around at all?
They proved the 50-year-old dogma wrong. But to create that initial plasma football, they used the old school method, theta pinching. This is the 100-gigawatt starter that I was talking about in the beginning. Their machine had 2 giant complex plasma cannons at each end.
It originated from theta pinch? Okay, well, when we looked at, I didn't know anything about any of these topics. So when I started looking into fusion, you find out about theta pinch and Z pinch. And these were fusion things that the military was digging and looking into like 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so when you find out that the origin of this is also based in the same origin that the Air Force was looking into, now you really sort of have to wonder if there's not a connection between this nuclear technology, fusion technology, and the UFO stuff you see in the sky. And the reason why you had to have the pinch is how they got the elements to come together. That's like how you get things to come together. You say, oh, we're going to have them pinch together and they're going to attract, and this is how we'll overcome that Coulomb barrier. Now, I imagine they figured out ways, that was probably the first idea of how to do it. Presumably now they found ways to do it much more efficiently, maybe even automate that.
They'd fire 2 plasma rings at each other at supersonic speeds just to start the reaction. It was complex, violent, and incredibly expensive. Then lead scientist Thomas Roche had a crazy SpaceX kind of idea. He basically went to the team and said, hey, what if we just turn off the 100 gigawatt starter and just see what happens? This is the engineering equivalent of Elon Musk saying, forget landing legs, let's just catch the rocket with giant chopsticks. It sounds absurd until it isn't, and it worked. In April 2025, they published a paper in Nature Communications for the first time in history.
There it is. Whoa. If I wasn't convinced before, now I'm definitely convinced, baby. Choo-choo! We all in on the GJT train. We're all in on the TAE train, chat. Oh, boy. You said, okay, we were shooting these plasma toroids at each other at supersonic speeds. By the way, that's what the Marauder program was doing in the 90s. And we were making this plasma in the middle. And we said, you know what? Let's not even shoot them at each other anymore. Let's just get rid of that. Let's not do that. We're just going to make the FRC happen just with the neutral beam injectors. We're going to basically knit up our sweater here. We're going to knit a sweater, but our sweaters are field reverse configuration plasma. And they said that's not possible. There's no way that can be done. You have to have them shoot at each other. There's no way you're going to have enough energy to make it stable. And they said, I bet you're wrong. And now we've got a scientific paper that's brand new. April 2025, that might as well be fresh off the presses in the scientific community. Brand new paper. They say, oh, just forgot to tell you guys, we figured out how to do the field reverse configuration. We don't need the cannons shooting the plasmas to the center anymore. We basically just chopped our whole thing in half. Now the neutral beams can just spin up the FRC whenever we want. That's a pretty big advancement in this technology. And for the people that wonder, they haven't shown us anything. They are not going to show you anything. If I'm right, then they know that they're seeing much higher stability than classic physics explains. The reason why they're able to spin up that plasma so easily is because they're tapping into 0 point energy. That's the reason why they can do it when everybody said it shouldn't be possible. And they know they're doing that, but they're not going to admit it because it's kind of a big deal and it's a competitive advantage. It's a competitive advantage for them to know about this and for the other companies like especially Commonwealth to not know about it. Because Commonwealth is fucking around with metal donuts. Meanwhile, TAE is building plasma orbs and they're trying to figure out how to make it more and more efficient. Try to make it more and more efficient. In fact, I don't want TAE to spill the beans on what they know, especially now that we know what the situation is. Okay, last minute here.
They successfully formed better. Key plasma metrics almost doubled, including 2 long, expensive quartz tubes. This simplification alone slashed the machine's capital cost by up to 50%. And the craziest part, the machine performed better. Key plasma metrics almost doubled. It's more.
It didn't just work. It performed better. The metrics were even higher. What's about to happen here? And I think Bob Greener, I saw him in the chat just now. I think he would agree. We are about to find out that all this EVO plasmoid stuff is all real. And the ether is real, 0 point energy real. We can tap 0 point energy. And we're going to find it all out from aneutronic fusion.
To the 520 men over 40 who bought the health pod yesterday hoping to drop the beer gut, I'm sorry. I said
we're going to do aneutronic fusion and it's going to break all the expectations. And this is already happening. If you listen to what David Kirkley of Helium Fusion says, he says, we're seeing stabilities thousands of times higher than what's predicted. You shouldn't be seeing stability thousands of times higher unless there's an energy source of somewhere else that's at play. And you can avoid this question and topic only so long. Because at some point, you're going to get the fusion to work and people are going to wonder, why is this plasma ball just sitting here chilling when it should be disappearing? And that's what's going to happen. Okay, let me let him finish here.
Efficient, way more compact, and it makes guiding the exhaust particles into the expansion chamber to generate electricity much simpler.
Guiding the exhaust particles to generate electricity. Does that sound familiar, chat? Guiding the exhaust particles, that's what's happening in MH370 videos. The orbs are fusion reactors, aneutronic fusion reactors. And they can use the particles that the fusion reactors are creating, the alpha particles. They can use that for propulsion. They can use that for energy generation. They can use that for whatever they need it to do. And so this is the breakthrough. The dark lines before and after the orbs in the MH370 videos, that's the fingerprint. That's the giveaway. That's where they gave the game away. That's where, going back to the beginning of this live stream, I said, you can tell from these videos. You can tell what the physics is. Now, if you don't know about the physics, it's hard to tell. But once you learn about the physics, once you learn about how fusion works, you go, oh, that's a field reverse configuration. And they're controlling how they're shooting the expellant out. And the expellant doesn't have to be conventional rocket fuel. It can be X-rays. It can be charged particles. So they're just thinking outside the box. This is why I tell people, and I think why Sal tells people, it's not new physics. None of this is new physics. If anything, it's actually just taking what Einstein already figured out and basically saying, how can we break this? How can we exploit this? How can I make a magic card deck that the opponent wants to punch me in the face on turn 3 because I just beat them? Right? Super annoying magic card deck that nobody wants to play against. And that's what we do with general relativity. We break it, we make wormholes, we make singularities out of the math, and in response, we get fusion. People say, how can we get 3 billion degrees? Bitch, we can get 10 billion degrees. We can get as many degrees as you want. You think we're limited? No, no, no. I'm here to say that we can make a black hole that destroys the whole universe. We're not limited at all. And that's why I think companies like TAE they're shooting for the moon. They're aiming for the top ring, not settle for DT fusion, which is going to be stupid. Aim for boron 11 fusion, the best possible fusion that won't annihilate the universe. Maybe won't annihilate the universe. Okay.
This is a colossal win, but TA is not at the finish line yet. They have now engineered a path to a 5 billion degree furnace, but they still have to survive it. Their Norman machine hit 75 million degrees Celsius. Their new Norm machine is pushing that higher. But to get it to the 1 to 5 billion degrees needed for Da Vinci, they need a 13 to 70 times increase. That will require neutral beams, hundreds of times more powerful than what we have now. But the real final boss is radiation at these insane temperatures.
So this is all super useful information, but he just gave another piece of the game away. So now we figured out that one of the first things they solved was they don't need the particle accelerator shooting the plasmas together. We can get rid of that. We can make our FRC plasma just from the neutral beam injectors, which pretty much means we can make a cannon that shoots a plasma ball. Okay. But he said, in order to achieve the temperatures 5 billion degrees, we need lasers that are way more powerful. That's what the neutral beam injectors are. They're basically just lasers. Guys, do you know where we can find any anyone got any super powerful lasers out there? Anybody done any live streams reviewing any super powerful lasers? Oh yeah, this guy. How about a nuclear pumped relativistic free electron X-ray laser? Does that sound like that could fit the bill? Ding, 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 ding. Gonna go with a Yahtzee on that one. I think we hit the mark. So if they have super powerful lasers, then now you have the ability to spin up your FRC basically right there on the spot, as opposed to having some particle accelerators shooting the plasmas together. Boom. By the way, if I had to guess, we're not the first ones to discover this. People like Charles Chase and others probably have discovered it multiple times over history. That's probably the saddest part.
The plasma starts bleeding energy. It's a physics problem called Bremsstrahlung, or breaking radiation. When a fast-moving electron from the plasma zips past the heavy boron nucleus, also from the plasma, the nucleus's powerful charge yanks on it, causing it to break and shed its energy as a high-powered X-ray. This is an energy loss, and it gets worse as the temperatures go up. Many physicists believe this is the true deal breaker. They estimate that for P11B, the energy lost to Bremsstrahlung radiation will be more than the energy you gain from fusion.
So there it is. First of all, there's your answer. What are those dark lines that are coming out of the orbs in the MH370? Why are there black lines coming out of the orbs in the MH370 videos? Well, it turns out Bremsstrahlung radiation, which he just described there, which is a byproduct of A neutronic fusion reactions, is X-rays. X-rays don't show up in a thermal camera because they're outside the thermal spectrum. Therefore, they show up as black. So why are you seeing this massive flow of black line coming out of these orbs? Because you're seeing a huge amount of X-ray radiation coming out of those orbs from the A neutronic fusion process that's happening in the center. And they're using the magnetic fields to control the direction of those flows. And they can use that flow quite literally as propulsion. They can use it to brake. They can use it to accelerate, whatever they need it to do. So they're basically using fusion to do whatever you want. So a little drone, basically, at that point. Okay, I think that's good. Okay, yeah. So check out that video, guys, if you're interested. You want to know more about TAE. But this is the big secret here: is that they can achieve this energy level, this high temperature level, using the field reverse configuration and potentially abusing relativistic effects, abusing